Hello everyone, welcome back. John Stanko here with Mike Ritz, recapping Week 2 action here in our weekly podcast. And Mike, let's start on Thursday. The first game of the week might have been also the ugliest game of the week between the New England Patriots and the New York Jets.
Oh, without a doubt, definitely one of the ugliest games of the week. You should be happy that at least your Patriots ended up on top of this ugly game.
They didn't deserve to.
Yeah, but the Jets didn't play that well either. Geno Smith, he still threw for over 200 yards.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's something, if you're a Jet fan, you kind of see as a plus.
Yeah.
But these are the types of games that the Jets should win. The only way the Jets are going to win are these types of games, those ugly, low-scoring games. So the Patriots kind of played into the Jets' game plan a little bit, but the Patriots still ended up on top. It was ugly as can be. I thought the Patriots were going to rout the Jets, especially in the first quarter when they got that quick touchdown.
Yeah, Aaron Dobson, that was his lone highlight. That one, I think, was 35-yard reception, play action, beautiful. After that, Aaron Dobson dropped at least 4 balls, including a 50-yard fade route. Aaron Dobson looked horrendous. Kendall Tompkins was not on the same page. Back shoulder throws, Kendall Tompkins doesn't know what those are. Like, Tom Brady threw 4 of them, and Thompson was like, "Oh, bounced off my shoulder. I don't know what wasn't supposed to be there." It was ridiculous.
And that first touchdown, it was the guy's first reception of his career. So these are the types of guys that Brady has to kind of teach, and they have to grow during the season. But the only problem is you got to win some games when all this is happening, and that's the same problem that the Jets are going through right now too with Geno Smith. So if you're a Jets fan, you can kind of see this as a plus because
a moral victory.
Because the 2 games that you've been in, you beat the Buccaneers, which, granted, they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
But you hung in there against your divisional rival. So, you took the L, but I think a lot of Jets fans going into the game were expecting much worse.
I think that's the thing. I think Patriots fans, we won the game, but we feel like we lost. Every Patriot fan I've spoken to, everyone is just like, we didn't deserve to win that game. I'm more scared now for Week 3 than I've ever been. And since I've been a Patriot fan, since I can remember, it's the worst I've seen the team. And hopefully things improve. Rob Gronkowski was announced today 50-50 to come back Sunday against Tampa Bay. And with Goldston out for Week 3, the safety for Tampa Bay being suspended, things might be looking up, but I'm still not optimistic.
We'll go into Week 3 on our podcast on Thursday, but for right now, let's go into the first game on Sunday. It was St. Louis Rams taking on the Atlanta Falcons, and a game where it looked like the Falcons were gonna handle the Rams up until the second half, up until really the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
The Rams kind of made a surge. Falcons still ended up on top, 31-24. Matty Ice in the Dome. He was as advertised, 374 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Dominated.
He dominated. But these Rams, they had a good win last week in Week 1, and they're hanging in against the Falcons, Johnny.
Julio Jones, great game, 182 yards, played out of his mind. St. Louis couldn't cover him. Also, just a stat of note, the highest rusher in the game was Darrell Richardson. He had 35 yards for St. Louis. That was the highest rusher of the game. If you're St. Louis, you got to run the ball more than that. Got to be more effective. Steven Jackson did leave the game injured, though, for Atlanta, and it was announced today he's out for about 2 to 4 weeks. So that's a big blow to them. He was really a key offseason addition. He hasn't done much, and now he's injured. But with that being said, it was 21-0, I believe, at one point. Falcons were routing them. St. Louis came back. Give credit to them. Again, St. Louis is going to be a feisty team. I don't think they're ever going to get blown out. I think they'll be in games. I don't know if they'll win a lot of them, but they're going to be a sleeper team. And, Atlanta, you knew they weren't going to go 0-2, especially at home in the Dome.
Absolutely not. But you got to give it to Sam Bradford, too. He threw for 352 yards himself.
Becoming a fantasy quarterback.
I think he's a little underrated. I don't think many people are talking about him. He's putting up numbers, and he's a big reason why the Rams are kind of doing at least better than what most people thought. But I guess heading into the next game, Johnny. Ooh.
You called this one. This one is your baby.
Oh, this is my baby.
The Panthers going to Ralph Wilson Stadium, the mecca
of professional sports,
and playing the Buffalo Bills, and the Bills pulled one out of somewhere, and they were able to get the win. E.J. Manuel, a huge late drive off a pass interference call from Carolina.
Which was terrible. Yeah. It's something you really can't do.
You just can't do. But Stevie Johnson wide open in the corner of the end zone for the final play of the game. And Carolina, a problem with that last play was that they had 3 starters in their secondary injured in that game, and they weren't in that final possession, and that was the reason why Buffalo had that wide open receiver. But Buffalo, they win at home. They win at Wilson Stadium.
I'm telling you, this is not a bad team at home. They had a close one against their Patriots in Week 1. They go and they beat a team that honestly probably should beat. I guess it was a 50-50 game when we were doing our podcast last week.
Yep.
The Panthers might have had a little more talent, but the Bills know how to get it done at home. E.J. Manuel, obviously very emotional after the game. His first career NFL win as a quarterback, and to win it on a ending like that, obviously you can get emotional.
And his dad's in the stands. Makes it even better.
Huge. And for the Bills, a very complete game. You have E.J. Manuel just short of 300 yards. He threw for a touchdown, also a pick.
Yep.
But C.J. Spiller ran for over 100 yards. And then Stevie Johnson, 8 receptions, 111 yards, and a touchdown. So what else do you want if you're the Bills? On all aspects, you're kind of clicking. So especially after this game, the Bills have to be very pumped.
I think that based off the first 2 weeks, the Dolphins are 2-0. We're going to get to them. I think you got to say the AFC East is being better than it was advertised at the start of the year. I think thus far. It's still early, but the Jets have hung in games. They haven't been blown out. You got the Bills. E.J. Manuel looks legit. Dolphins are 2-0, and the Patriots are a sloppy 2-0. So the AFC East might be shaping up to be a very interesting division this upcoming year.
And also, that does not bode well for the Jets, to be honest with you, because I don't think they saw at least the Bills being a threat. Mm-hmm. And I think going into Week 3, that's who they play at home. So I think for the Jets, the last thing you want to see is the Dolphins play well and the Bills play well, because for a while, the only team that they really had to worry about was the Patriots.
That there's a lot more parity in that league. But speaking of parity, let's go to a division that's always competitive. The teams in it anyway when they play each other. The NFC North, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Chicago Bears. In a game that featured scoring in possibly every single way you can imagine. Fumble return, kick return. I mean, everything you can imagine. And the Bears pulled out the 31-30 win. Jay Cutler, he's performing in the clutch.
Yeah, he threw for 290 yards, 3 touchdowns. It was a crazy game. I didn't think that the Vikings would be in this game, but I guess when you have a 105 kick return, a fumble return, Ponder doesn't have to do much, and the less Ponder has to do, the better off the Vikings are, because let's face it, he's not an NFL quarterback.
He's not a quarterback.
But that's how the Vikings are going to get their points, AP and basically anything else that's not a throw. And that's what kept the Vikings in this game. They were up early, I think, on the opening kickoff. Didn't they run? They ran the opening kickoff back.
Cordero Patterson, 105-yard kick return. Welcome to the NFL. I've never heard of you before, but now I know your name.
But the Bears squeak one out at home on a last second drive. Brandon Marshall, 7 receptions, 113 yards, and a touchdown. And the Bears are 2-0 in a game where it was very, very, very close. It looked like the Vikings were going to win for a while.
No, Martellus Bennett catches a 16-yard pass from Jay Cutler with about 10 seconds left. And again, Jay Cutler performing in the clutch. I got to say, I'm impressed with their composure. Adrian Peterson at 100 yards didn't score, though. And Chicago, I'm sure there was a game plan. Don't let him score. I mean, obviously. But, I mean, he kept him at the end zone. He fumbled the ball once, too. So, I mean, the Bears played a good overall game. And it was just a crazy game with the amount of scoring plays. Like, following it on a GameCaster, you're just like, that can't seem right. But that's the way it happened to be. So, I mean, good for the Bears. They start off 2-0. I didn't think they were going to be as good as they were heading into the season. But they're proving me wrong.
And whoever had the over in that game is very happy.
Yes.
61 points between the two teams. Who
would have thought that out of two good defenses?
Yeah, especially the Vikings. You can kind of see maybe the Bears can kind of roll off some points, but if I would have probably picked the under, I didn't think the Vikings were going to score that many points. But speaking of another high-scoring game, we had the Packers just shellacked the Redskins this week. The final was 38-20. It was not that close.
No, the score is not indicative of how well the Packers dominated.
It was 24-0 at halftime.
Yep.
It got ugly, and the Redskins, 13 of their points came in the fourth quarter when, let's be honest, it did not matter.
Yep.
And Aaron Rodgers went off. He had 480 yards, 4 touchdowns. I think they were still a little bitter about their loss against the Niners last week. And also, they had a 132-yard rusher. Are you kidding?
What is
Green Bay Packers?
I think it's the first time in over 40 games.
Oh, my God. It was. Starks, 20 carries, 132 yards, and a touchdown.
He's the backup. Eddie Lacy got hurt with a concussion.
So the Packers, an all around just a great performance against the Redskins, and I think the Redskins. It didn't matter who they played. Whoever played the Packers just agreed to shellac, and the Redskins just kind of right into a buzzsaw.
I mean, the way you think of it, Aaron Rodgers had over 300 passing yards in the first half. You know it's going to be a good day when that happens. It was the first time ever in Green Bay history they had a 100-yard rusher and a 400-yard passer. James Jones had a heck of a day, 178 yards receiving. There's really no way to put it. The Packers took it to the Redskins. Mike Shanahan, the fire underneath the seat is getting hotter.
I told you. I agreed
with you. So, I mean, the way you put it, the Redskins fans, you got to be worried because your defenses look sloppy. RG3 has looked sloppy. There's nothing really to look forward to right now if you're a Redskins fan. So
and that's great coming from a Giants
yeah,
fan.
So that's some good note for you.
Well, going into this next game, which I think surprised some, was Miami Dolphins going into Indianapolis and pulling away a win. And what is with these Dolphins, Stanko?
I don't really know what to tell you. The Dolphins, they don't seem to do anything super well, but they got the ball to Mike Wallace. And he had 15 yards. 15 yards the first week. He was vocal about his displeasure, and they got him the ball immediately. I think it was 4 or 5 targets on the first possession they had. He had a touchdown, over 100 yards receiving, and he's their playmaker. He's the one that's going to give them all the big plays. So the way you see it is that the Dolphins, they finally used Mike Wallace, and I think Andrew Luck had a good game. T.Y. Hilton had 124 yards receiving. It was a very balanced game. Just the Dolphins, their defense also came up big.
Yeah, the game was up in the air for a while, and but we said it. It was the fact that the Dolphins won last week without Mike Wallace shows you the Dolphins aren't just a week by week team. They might be here to stay at least this season.
Yep.
Obviously, starting off 2-0 is always good. But if Mike Wallace, this is the type of performance that at least me and Johnny expected from Mike Wallace, especially playing in Miami where they don't have
all the money he got too.
Yeah, with all the money that he got and with not that many receivers that the Dolphins have, Tannehill doesn't have that many options. So this is the type of performance that we kind of expected Mike Wallace to have, and if he's going to be putting up these types of numbers, the Dolphins are going to be pretty good.
The only thing I would worry about maybe as a Dolphins fan is that your first 2 weeks you haven't rushed the ball very well. You only had 101 rushing yards this week. You were held under 100 last week. There might be a concern for moving forward, but you're 2-0 now, and the beginning of your schedule is very, very tough. And the fact you're 2-0 now, all the power to you. You really can't say anything bad about the Dolphins right now.
Also, for the Colts, Reggie Wayne had 4 receptions in the first quarter. He finished with 5 receptions. You got to go to your boy, especially in these close games. I'm sure he could have had opportunities to either get the ball. I don't think it might have been a little bit of both. He wasn't getting open, and Luck wasn't finding him. So at least that was a cause for concern here. Reggie Wayne, your top receiver, only getting 1 reception in 3 quarters. That is definitely a recipe for disaster.
I mean, but moving on to the next game, a game that was intriguing, 50-50 game. You had Andy Reid going up against an old NFC East rival. This is the Kansas City Chiefs and the Dallas Cowboys. The Chiefs pulled it out 17-16 in a again up in the air game, going back and forth the whole entire game. But give credit to Kansas City because I didn't believe in them after week 1. They beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's Jacksonville. I didn't buy into them, but I buy into them now because they got Alex Smith who takes care of the ball. Andy Reid can coach a defense. He stopped. Even though Des Bryant had a monster first half, just throwing them the ball nonstop, the Chiefs were able to come out in the second half, shut down the offense of the Cowboys, and you know what? Good win for the Chiefs.
Big win for the Chiefs. We both had Dallas last week.
We did.
And that obviously surprised both of us. I didn't think the Chiefs were going to be that as good as they looked, but I'm not sold on the Chiefs yet. I'm not sold on the Chiefs, and I'll tell you why. The top rusher in the game was Alex Smith, who had 57 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, Kansas City wins at home, but if they're not running the ball, I can't pick them week by week. Mm-hmm. Dallas, obviously, they had a good win against the Giants, but Giants had 6 turnovers.
Yeah.
And they still almost lost. So Dallas, even though they're 1-1, they might not be as good as advertised just yet. Mm-hmm. So I think the win kind of diminishes a little bit. So we'll see throughout the season how Kansas City is, but I'm not sold on them just yet. Good win. I think it's a big win for Andy Reid.
Big win for Andy Reid.
Because the Kansas City Chiefs had 2 wins all of last year. To get that out of the way right now, look, we have 2 wins right now, and now let's just go and play the rest of our schedule, honestly. That's probably a sigh of relief for the Chiefs, to at least the Chiefs fans to know, look, all right, we're not going to be as bad. We're definitely not going to be as bad as we were last year unless they roll off 14 straight losses, which at least I don't see.
I don't see that happening at all. But let's go to a team that started off 0-1, and that was Baltimore Ravens. They got shellacked. And, they're playing the Cleveland Browns, and I went on record saying that this would be a blowout, and this would be a game where Joe Flacco would go off and the Ravens would solve all their problems because they've had extra time to prepare, they're angry, and they're playing the Browns. I was wrong. There's no other way to put it. The game was close. The Browns surprised me. In fact, the Browns were leading 6-0 at one point. So, I'm going to say this. I don't know if this is better for the Browns, saying that their defense played well, or if it's the Ravens, you had extra time to prepare and extra motivation, and you still only beat the Browns 14-6.
I'd also like to note that your counterpart said this game was going to be closer than people think, and it ended up 14-6.
Yes.
I might say that it's probably a little bit of both. I think because you said that the Browns defense is going to be better than what people think.
Yes.
And the Ravens obviously lost a lot of pieces. I've been saying maybe a little too much. The Ravens aren't going to be that good. So this might be the type of team or the type of game where the Ravens have to win. It's going to be different from their Super Bowl team last year where they rattled off a lot of points. Let's see how they are. Look, any win you can get now for the Ravens, you'll take it. But I think cause of concern, a little bit at least, for John Harbaugh, because this is going to be a tough year. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be handed wins like you were last year. So Joe Flacco needs to figure this out, because only scoring 14 points at home is never good. Also, congratulations to Joe Flacco. He had a baby just half an hour before the start of the game. So congratulations to him. I believe it's his second child. So it's been a pretty good year for him. Tough, man. It's like, look, you have a kid half hour before the game. I'm not gonna lie, I would have booked it and gone to see my kid. I mean, that's tough, but and also, they're not far apart, Cleveland and Baltimore. It's not like you're like coast to coast. Yeah, but when you're getting paid the way you're getting paid, this is true, and your teams don't. If Flacco doesn't play, we might be sitting here saying what a good win for the Browns. It's true. But yeah, look, the Ravens they win. Let's just worry about week 3. Just move forward. One game at a time. Also, Billy Cundiff is now on the Browns. In case you wanted to know. Patriot savior. Yeah. Billy Cundiff is on the Browns, so he kicked 2 field goals against his old team, and one was a 51-yarder, Johnny. That's pretty impressive. But let's talk about kickers who were not impressive. Oh, man. Let's go to this Houston Texans versus the Tennessee Titans game, shall we? Let's go. Let's just say Tennessee, I will give you this. You're better than I thought you were. But the only reason you were close in this game is because the kicker, Bullock, I believe his name is. Yep. I'm not even going to say his first name because he doesn't deserve it. Bullock missed 3 field goals. Got me -1 fantasy points. Which I needed. Oh, man. Toughest fantasy week ever. But the Texans escape with a win at home against the Tennessee Titans. Bullock goes 0 for 3 from field goals. He had a chance to win it. I believe he kicked it twice in the final seconds of the fourth quarter. 3 times, actually. One, it was a timeout. Then there was a penalty. He made both those. The third time, he missed it. So the Texans escape. Again, they move forward. They escaped versus San Diego. They escaped versus Tennessee. They're kind of like the Ravens. These close games that you didn't really expect, but it might be the way their season's going. But I mean, Texans escape. They get to 2-0. Titans, I'm going to say this. You impressed me. You're 1-1, but I think you're playing better than a lot of people expected. Yeah, and I think it starts with Chris Johnson. At least they have some form of running this year that they can kind of rely on. Mm-hmm. I mean, he comes up. They gave him the ball 25 times. He had 96 yards. If they can basically bank on Chris Johnson getting 100 yards a game, and I think that's huge for them because that's not something that they had last year. But yeah, the Texans, they're surprising. They're almost like the Patriots in a way, because a team where you thought they were going to be very good. I mean, except I think the Texans have a lot more pieces. A lot more pieces offensively. But Andre Johnson did get hurt in this game. He did concussion, yes. He did have a concussion, so we'll see how those tests. I think tests end up being negative. Thank God. But we'll see if he's going to be healthy enough to play in week 3. But Schaub still threw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. 2 picks. And Hopkins, 7 receptions, 117 yards and a touchdown. Surprising game for me. I thought this was going to be a shellacking. Yeah, to be honest. I agree. Houston at home. But that wasn't the case. But still, the Texans are 2-0. Titans, 2 surprising games to start off the year, and at least they should be excited for what's to come. Yeah, they will move up in my power rankings. But also, just want to give a shout out to Brian Cushings and Watt.
They had phenomenal games for the Texans. Cushing's had 11 solo tackles and 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Simply phenomenal. J.J. Watt had 5 tackles, 2 of them sacks. He hit the quarterback 4 times. He also had 2 pass deflections. So both great games for them, and you know what? That's why the Texans are going to be good, because they have playmakers on the defensive end of the ball, and they came up big. Let's talk about a team that doesn't have any defense, the Philadelphia Eagles. They escaped week 1, I guess you could say. Again, the fourth quarter didn't really mean much, but Washington came back, kind of made it a game. But they hosted San Diego, who collapsed against the Texans, and it came to a point where it was like a Madden game, just going back and forth, shooting it out. You had deep bombs to Deshaun Jackson, and then Eddie Royal coming out of nowhere for San Diego. 5 TD receptions in the first 2 weeks. That's half of his total receptions. He has 10 receptions on the year. 5 of them are for touchdowns. He had 3 of them against the Eagles. Phillip Rivers, I hate to say it, but he's playing really, really, really well.
It's early. I was, to be honest, I was not surprised the Chargers ended up being on top of this game because the Eagles have no defense. Mm-hmm. Me and John have spoken outside of this podcast saying that maybe the Eagles' offense, as quick as it is, the downside of that might be the defense might be a little tired when they get back on the field because they're not getting as much rest as they usually do. Yep. So that might be a downside of having such a fast offense for the Eagles. Chargers have an explosive offense. There is no doubt about it. But I do not see them doing anything this season still. They had their run against the Texans, but then they showed why they're not going to be good because Texans ended up coming back in that game. Yeah. Then they play against an Eagles team who has no defense, so of course they're going to score 33 points on the Eagles. So Phillip Rivers needs to show me one more performance against a better team than this, and then I'll be like, you know what, Rivers, this might be a good season for you.
This might be a good season for you.
But I think the bigger story is Mike Vick threw for over 400 yards.
Damn.
I think, and Deshaun Jackson, out of those 400 yards, Deshaun Jackson had 193 of them, and a touchdown reception. So Mike Vick is here.
He's back, ladies and gentlemen. He's back.
There's no doubt about it. Talk to me about week 7 or 8, and let's see how Mike Vick is. But as of right now, Vick is playing very well. But for the Chargers, that's a huge win to come back and beat an Eagles team. But this Eagles defense, red flags all over the place. Yep. If the Chargers scoring this many points.
Their secondary is very, very, very skeptical. But I also want to give a shout out to former Patriot Danny Woodhead. Played a great game against the Eagles. So shout out to you, Danny Woodhead, because you were fantastic. But let's go to a game I think surprised a lot of people. The Arizona Cardinals lost week 1 to St. Louis in a tight game. They come back week 2. They play the Detroit Lions, and they pull out the W, 25-21. They hold the Detroit Lions offense. Calvin Johnson had 2 touchdowns, but they held them pretty much in check for the most part, and a very impressive win for Arizona.
These Cardinals are killing me, at least for the podcast. I had them beating the Rams, and they lose, and then I had the Lions beating the Cardinals, and then they win. So, you know what, the Cardinals, I'm not liking you right now, but that's a big win for them. Big win for them. The Lions' defense really needs to get it together. I think that when they really need a stop, they can't get it, and I think that's a big problem if you're talking about the Lions and playoffs, because I think they have a very good team. Obviously, you have Stafford and you have the best receiver in the game in Calvin Johnson. But as far as your defense goes, you really don't have anybody besides Sue. Yeah. And even that could be a question mark because if he's taking away touchdowns on his penalties and his antics,
he's going to get suspended a game this year. Mark my word.
Oh, he definitely will. He almost did.
He should have.
He's already getting fined for his hit. But anyway, the Lions need to kind of do something on defense if they want to stick around for the playoffs. But it's a big win for the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals needed this win more than the Lions did because I think that wins are going to be hard to come by when you're Arizona. But if you're Detroit, what are you doing? I think the fact that Calvin Johnson had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns was huge.
Good,
but
Reggie Bush got hurt.
That's what I was about to say. Reggie Bush is hurt. So now, what's the next step for the Lions now that one of your wild cards is hurt? Yeah, that's the thing. Once Reggie Bush got hurt and wasn't in the game, their offense kind of just became stagnant. They didn't know what to do. They lost their identity. And I think that's really going to hurt because he can't, as much as I love Reggie Bush as a player, he's fragile and you can't rely on him every week to be in the game at all times. That being said, he went back in the game week 1 after dislocating his thumb.
So, but I just want to point out the Cardinals, Jim Dre, their tight end led them in receptions, and they still won the game. Larry Fitzgerald had only 2 receptions for 33 yards, only targeted 5 times, and they still won the game. So I think that bodes well for them that they have a backup option. I put that in quotes. It worked for this game. But, I mean, it's a great win for Arizona. And I think, again, the NFC West, we're seeing now Arizona is a team that's very good. St. Louis is a team that's good. And we're going to get to San Francisco, Seattle, 2 of the best teams in the league. That is still, in my mind, by far the best division in football.
Oh, absolutely. But going to now a team of heartbreak. We're going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are coming off a bad loss against the New Orleans Saints in a game where at least I had money in the bank. Saints were going to trounce the Bucs. And Buccaneers obviously coming off that of last week's loss to the Jets, off of that penalty and the game-winning 40-yard field goal for the Jets. And now they were up 14-12 with the correct. Am I right?
I believe you're right.
No, sorry, 14-13.
14-13.
14-13 against the Saints. And you have all of a sudden Breeze gets the ball with less than a minute to go.
He was pinpoint.
2 huge completions with a great grab out of Marcus Colston to put him in great field goal range, and then Garrett Hartley hit a chip shot, 27-yarder to win the game.
Yeah.
But it was a crazy game. And we had an 85-yard pick six for the Buccaneers to put them up 14-13.
Your dad picked the pick. I just want to give this little anecdote because it was hilarious. Your dad picked New Orleans to win the game in the survivor pool. What was the text that you got when the Tampa Bay was doing the pick six? Because if I remember correctly, it was very, very, very amusing.
I do not want to misquote my father, so let me just get it real quick. It was funny. Right when it happened, I was like, oh no, my dad is going to go nuts because this is the suicide pick and he is going to be happy. And then I get this. Some fat guy just returned an interception for like 80 yards for a touchdown for Tampa Bay. So he obviously was not happy.
The defeated tone of that text just really encompasses what Tampa Bay is feeling because they feel so defeated. You had 2 wins in the bag and you couldn't close it out.
No, but at least they're in the games. I don't think the Buccaneers are going to win that many games in the first place, but the fact that they're in these games.
Yeah.
What makes it worse is they could easily be 2-0 against. 2 good wins. Being the Jets would have been a good win in New York, and then going against the Saints, who obviously it's a Saints. It's the Saints, and only holding them to 16 points is huge.
That's the thing. When Drew Brees throws 2 interceptions, you have to win the game. Yeah. That's like a rule.
But Jimmy Graham, 10 receptions, 179 yards, and a touchdown. Stanko's boy.
And he had a touchdown called back. Not my boy. Not my boy. Killed me. He was going against me fantasy this week. Just tore. Oh, God.
Doug Martin rushed for 144 yards on 29 carries.
Good to see him wake up after week 1.
Exactly. He did not have a good week 1. Even though he did have a touchdown in week 1. Comes back, runs for over 140 yards. Things on the up and up. But, just for the sake of Greg Schiano, I hope the Buccaneers at least get blown out next week. I would rather get blown out than have one of these losses again.
There are reports that the players are very unhappy with Schiano.
Which is surprising.
He's a hard-nosed coach. He brings that college atmosphere. That's what he came here to do. But when you're not winning, it's hard to keep that upbeat college atmosphere.
That's true. And Josh Freeman, rumors that he's been requested to be traded. And I'm going to say why. Because if he gets traded, I don't see him starting anywhere except Jacksonville.
They're not going to sign him, though. This is his contract year, I believe. And there's no contract talks whatsoever.
Yeah, so we'll figure that out. And then we'll also get down to Jacksonville and their quarterback situation in a second. Because Stanko...
Let's go there right now. Let's go to Oakland and Jacksonville.
Let's go there right now.
Oakland and Jacksonville. This is a game where the game is not the highlight. It's the news that happened yesterday that's really the highlight. The game, Oakland won, 19-9. Great. McFadden, 130 yards rushing. Fantastic. He's back. Woohoo. Yesterday, Jacksonville fans protested outside their stadium to have Tim Tebow come back and be quarterback in the hometown of Jacksonville. What are your thoughts?
Why not? You have nothing to lose. In week 8, there's going to be 5 people there, and it's going to be the janitors going to end up playing these games. No one is going to be at the Jacksonville Jaguars games unless it's the away team that they want to see. So they figure, why not? We'll bring in Tebow. We'll sell tickets. We'll sell apparel. People are going to be getting the jerseys and stuff. This is perfect for Jacksonville because you have nothing to look forward to at all. Sign him. Who cares? He's looking to play in the NFL. You can sign him to a. It doesn't have to be.
He'll take the minimum contract as long as he gets time.
It doesn't have to get to pay him. So why not?
Yeah,
What is he going to do? He's going to throw 4 interceptions to the Jaguars. Who cares?
I completely agree.
This is perfect. This is great if you're Jacksonville because you can still fill butts in the seats and you don't have to win a game. And don't worry because you're not gonna.
Yeah. It's one of those things also before this game, Jacksonville literally apologized, saying they apologized they had to show the Jacksonville-Oakland game over the Denver Giants game. They apologized to the audience for any inconvenience that this has. That's embarrassing when it's your home home state and you're apologizing for showing them.
If you have to apologize for showing any team, that is just awful. And they have how many points do they have in 2 weeks? 9?
They have
12.
They have 11 because they had 2 points.
2 points. They have 11 points in 2 weeks.
I think
they have yet to have a touchdown in 2 weeks.
Also, MJD did get banged up in a tackle from Charles Woodson of Oakland. So if he's out, God help you.
He's out. Where's Tebow?
Also saying, if Tebow comes, the amount of truck stick that will happen with Tebow and MJD.
Oh man,
it'd be pretty.
I would kind of want to watch Jacksonville. I would watch Jacksonville.
I would watch.
I would never watch
Not
Jacksonville.
Next week.
Yeah,
not next week when they're at Seattle. The week after that.
Oh yeah,
the week after that.
Oh man, I mean, just Jacksonville. Don't even get us started.
Okay, but let's get you started on the Giants.
No, let's not get me started on the Giants.
It was the 4:25 primetime game. Everyone tuned into this at a huge rating. This game, I think it was it had an absolutely astronomical rating television-wise. But Manning and the Denver Broncos again showed why they are in an upper class compared to the rest of the National Football League.
Yeah, I mean they're one of the best teams in the NFL. I wasn't surprised at this. I mean we said it. We both have the Broncos going into this week. Yep. I mean I also have the Broncos in other things.
Yes.
But look, it's Peyton. Peyton played okay. I think Eli he still threw for 362 yards. He had a touchdown. The 4 interceptions, 2 of them were coming late in the game. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that so at least 2 of the picks were really when it mattered. But he still threw 2 when it did matter. And they just beat us. They beat us to a bloody pulp. Noshawn Moreno had a solid game.
He did.
13 carries, 93 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Off the bench.
His 2 touchdowns, very similar. Looked very similar in the exact same thing. In the exact same play. So, Victor Cruz still had over 100 yards receiving. 8 receptions, 118 yards. Welker got in the end zone, but it was they took it to us. It was the start of the second half, and this game was over.
Yeah.
It did have some ratings, but this wasn't a game in the second half.
I think if you look at the 2 Manning quarterbacks, you have Peyton Manning, 9 touchdowns in 2 weeks, 0 interceptions, and you got Eli Manning, who has 7 interceptions in the first 2 weeks. It's a tale of 2 teams right now. You have the Giants are trying to get something going, and the pieces, you got David Wilson and running back, Brandon Jacobs. I mean, Brandon Jacobs looked okay. He scored that touchdown. He was pumped. I mean, that's the loudest I've ever heard anyone scream. He was pumped. But the way I see it is that the Giants, the division you're in allows you to be competitive because no one is really, really good. And I think that's going to be your saving grace moving forward because that's really the only thing you got going for you. And you're only a game behind the division leader at this point.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm going to say. With the Redskins losing last week, with the Cowboys losing, and with the Eagles losing, this division
went 0-4.
We went 0-4. And that's perfect for the Giants because we're 0-2 and Dallas is 1-1 and they are ahead right now. So let's get this going. Look, just flush the other 2 games out. You're still in it. I think people see 0-2 and say, all right, the Giants are going to be in it.
Well, I think it's only like a 12% chance of making the playoffs or something.
Yeah, but not when your division's like this.
Sure.
I think that this is obviously a crucial week in week 3. You really can't start at 0-3.
Yep.
But I think that first, the sad part is that Jacobs' run, I mean, it had to come after like 5 penalties out of the Broncos, which we couldn't get the ball. We couldn't get any yards that the Broncos committing penalties. This game could have been much worse. And there's still too much up in the air. But at least with Jacobs, we have somebody at the goal line to just truck stick through, which is going to be big. I think Eli's going to bounce back next week, but you kind of just take this game with a grain of salt, and then you just move on.
Denver is the class of the AFC. They are the top team in the AFC, and if you say a different team, you are wrong. There is no other way to put it based off these first 2 weeks. But let's get to the game, the Sunday night game, which had the clash of the two best teams in the NFC. And you had Seattle, who struggled week 1 against Carolina. And then you had San Francisco, who played really well against Green Bay and had people on their bandwagon saying best team. And they might have been the best team in the NFC. I had them week 1 in my power rankings, or ranked number 1 in my power rankings after week 1. But they went into CenturyLink Field.
Lord.
And CenturyLink Field, oh man, it is better than Ralph Wilson Stadium.
Oh, no,
yes.
Definitely not.
Oh, yes.
Definitely not.
The Seattle Seahawks took it to San Francisco and just demolished them 29-3. Colin Kaepernick looked absolutely futile, just could not do anything right, had 3 interceptions after 3 touchdowns week 1. Seattle showed why they're one of the best teams. Why CenturyLink Field is the toughest place to play in football. They set a Guinness World Book record for loudest stadium.
Oof.
Okay, twice. They did it at 2 separate times during the game. Seattle, by far, they're number 1 in my power rankings this week because they showed San Francisco who's boss.
And the fact that they scored 29 points with Russell Wilson only throwing the ball 19 times, I think it's huge because Marshawn Lynch is his breakout game. He got in the end zone 3 different
Skittles
times.
for days.
He had how many? He had 2 rushing touchdowns as well as a receiving touchdown. And with a poor week 1, he comes back and he has a great game this game, which is what I love to see with my fantasy team. But look, I had Frisco this game. I didn't think I knew Seattle was going to bring it. I didn't think San Francisco. Did you think Frisco was going to have 3 points? No way could you think.
No,
that.
I didn't think that. But I still thought Seattle was going to win the game.
I thought Kaepernick would show up a little more. I thought the Niners were.
Yeah, that was bad for your fantasy team.
He had 5 fantasy points. I thought the Niners were going to at least perform at some caliber, a better caliber than every other team that's kind of gone in there. And I was wrong. I think Seahawks took it to them. And they killed them. They had 17 points in the fourth quarter. They ran off. They just took off in the fourth quarter, and they took it to the Frisco.
I think the Seattle pass rush was really, really impressive to me. Their defensive line by the end of the game was making Colin Kaepernick run all over the place. Also, Richard Sherman, that defensive back for Seattle, is unstoppable. He may be better than Darrelle Revis.
He might be.
I'm going to say that right now because he is bigger. And, Darrelle Revis...
Especially now
after... Darrelle Revis is still great, but Richard Sherman right now is the number 1 DB in National Football League.
Oh, yeah. I definitely. As of right now, especially because Darrelle Revis probably still is 100%. Mm-hmm. But that's a big reason why Seattle's defense is the way it is. And Seattle's good. You really got to watch out for them.
Yep.
But going into this next game, which I just don't even know what to say for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
There's nothing good to say.
They look lost. And they lose Monday Night Football. They lose to the Bengals in Cincinnati. Bengals are a pretty good team.
Yep.
They kind of surprised us when they lost in Week 1, but they bounced back Week 2. My boy Andy Dalton, who I should have started, I would have won in fantasy if I started Dalton. Dalton, 280 yards, 1 touchdown. But Jarvis Green-Ellis, they gave him the law firm 22 times, 75 yards. And Emmanuel Sanders came up at least sort of big for Pittsburgh with 5 or 78 yards. But Pittsburgh scores no points in the second half.
They didn't have a first down till the fourth quarter.
Ugh.
Gross. Think about it. When you hold a team as talented offensively as the Bengals to 20 points, they have AJ Green. They got 2 good tight ends in Gresham.
Giovanni Bernard,
who had a great game at running back. If you hold the Bengals to 20 points, you think you should have a chance to win. But when your offense is anemic and terrible as Pittsburgh has been for the first 2 weeks, there's nothing good you can say. They were held under 300 total yards offensively.
They're playing like one of the worst teams in the NFL. They really are.
There's no... I'm sorry, Pittsburgh fans, but you you're like on a class of Jacksonville right now. You're not that bad.
They're not that bad. But when Tebow comes, you never know.
You never know.
You never know, Pittsburgh. They're playing like one of the worst. At least the first 2 weeks, Pittsburgh is playing terribly.
I'm going to say this. Right now, I would pick Oakland over Pittsburgh.
Yeah, if they play tomorrow,
I would pick Oakland over Pittsburgh.
Oakland is playing much better.
I'd put Pittsburgh maybe above the Jets because, I mean, both teams struggle offensively. I think the Steelers have a better defense than the Jets. And I'd put them above Jacksonville because Jacksonville doesn't count as a team.
Right.
So, I mean, that's really it, who I would put you above right now.
I just don't know. I think Mike Tomlin, you think his seat is getting a little warm if they struggle this year?
That's tough because Mike Tomlin,
he's always had success in the past.
yes.
But the problem with that is when those same guys that help you win, when they get older and they start to struggle, that might affect you because it's like, oh, he won with these players. He can't do it without them. And they might get rid of him. That's the only mindset that I think that might hurt him is, oh, well, Roethlisberger's getting up there. The entire Palomalu's getting up there.
Yeah.
You know, basically everybody on the Steelers, they're just an old team that had success in the past, and it's catching up to you now. And is Tomlin going to be kind of the scapegoat for a struggling year for the Steelers?
I can't see them getting rid of him during the year.
Oh, definitely not. I'm just saying say a team wins 5 games this year, which, let's be honest, that might happen.
Yeah. I think that if there's anyone to go during this year, it'd be Todd Haley at offensive coordinator. You remember?
It's been shaky with him and Roethlisberger.
And I think you're going to take the side of the quarterback who's won you Super Bowls. And I think Todd Haley will be gone. Will he be gone during this year? I would not be surprised if he left during this year. If they continue struggling as they have right now.
Todd Haley?
Todd Haley.
Yes.
Todd
Okay.
Haley.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin, I see him writing don't pull Charlie Manuel and fire him during the middle of the season.
No, you can't. You can't. And
that's a whole separate note on baseball.
That's a whole separate.
But again, the Steelers, there's nothing good you can say. You held the Bengals to 20 points, awesome, but you had less than 300 total yards of offense. It was absolutely dismal. One of the most disappointing performances of week 2. And Steelers might be the most disappointing team in football thus far during the season.
Yeah, because I think that people kind of saw them to be at least better than what they are now.
It's the reputation that carried them in the preseason and in like the preseason power rankings and everyone's expectations, and I think reality's setting in.
Reality's definitely setting in. But for the sake of our picks, it looks like me and Johnny tied in week 2.
11-5 for the both of us.
Looks like we're both 11-5. Johnny still got the 1-point edge on me through 2 weeks, correct?
2 weeks, yep.
And honestly, I'm pleased. I'm pleased with our performances so far.
I gotta say,
because the first couple weeks usually the hardest, and we're doing all right.
So look at our week 3, which we'll cover on Thursday. Will be posted probably Thursday night or Friday. Week 3 is gonna be tough.
I will say this: as of right now, I like how the NFL is right now. The first 2 weeks, there's so many close games. I think they said 6 games went down to the final drive last week, and
that's crazy.
That's a crazy amount. But for the first 2 weeks, the NFL has been great. A lot of close games. A lot of even imagine these playoffs. There aren't that many teams where you can say, you know what, this team definitely, this team definitely are going to be like the top 3 teams in the NFL.
Yep.
I think you could say the Broncos are going to be up there. But
I've only got 5 teams I think are set to make the playoffs guaranteed.
You figure the Broncos, the Niners, the Seahawks,
the Packers, and the Falcons.
The Falcons, like who else are you going to say?
Those are the top 5 teams that I would put definitely into the playoffs.
Even a team like the Saints, you don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know about the Saints. The Colts, you don't know. They lost this week.
The AFC East up for grabs.
AFC East. The NFC East up for grabs.
NFC, yes.
The NFC East is up for grabs. You don't know but it's only going to be one of those teams. They're definitely not going to get a wild card.
Oh no!
Definitely not going to get a wild card. But for the first 2 weeks, you got to be pleased with the performances. Fantasy and picks alone, this has just been great football to watch.
Well, it wasn't great fantasy last week.
It was.
For those of you who don't know, I lost by 0.2 points to Matthew Buzzy, and I'm sure you're listening, Matthew Buzzy. 0.2 points.
All because the Steelers D ended up giving him -3 points.
And my kicker got -1.
Oh, man. Poor Johnny. But maybe, just maybe, week 3 will be better for you.
It's not my year. What are you going to do? I went to the championship last year. It's not my year this year. It's just karma.
Look, So this has been the podcast with Mike and Johnny. Look out for this post. Which
It'll be on later
Facebook,
today.
Later today, Facebook, Twitter. Check us out. And Thursday, we will sit down and talk about Week 3. And you'll be looking for that? What, Thursday night?
Thursday night, Friday.
Yeah, Thursday night, hopefully, as they kick off for Kansas City and Philly, which we will get to that in our Thursday podcast.
Ooh, that'll be an interesting game.
But these have been your boys. He's Johnny, I'm Mike, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for joining us.